Morning class. Today, after our short stories, we'll start with our poem now. Last videos I had sent, we had done the Darkling Thrush, we had done Birches. Now we will do our poem number 5 in your books, that is Crossing the Bar by Alfred Lord Tennyson. Poet is Alfred Lord Tennyson. So, like the other poetries also, we will first start with a summary part, again where you all can summarize the poetry with a better understanding. The actual poem is of 1, 2, 3, 4 stanzas, short stanzas, but it has an inner meaning, and I want you all to understand the inner meaning, not the surface meaning, the inner meaning of the poem. Once you all get that understanding, it is helpful, because with that understanding you can get a clear picture of what exactly the poet is wanting to tell us through this poem. So we have this Crossing the Bar by Alfred Lord Tennyson. I'll do the summary part today. Next time we can do the main poem. Stanza wise, as I said, there are 4 stanzas only. We'll do the first, second, third and fourth stanzas, the summary part all today only. So here we have an unspecified ship. There is no name like to which ship it is, like Titanic or this or that. There is no name. It is just a ship, right? An unspecified ship is about to sail. It's just about to start its voyage. A journey by a ship is a sea voyage, right? So it is about to start its voyage, and when a ship is about to start its voyage, their trips are for long, for 3 months, 6 months they are out on the ocean, right? On a long voyage at sunset, and all these things have great significance. At sunset, it is starting its journey at sunset. Sunset is a time of the day where the day is ending, night is starting, right? As the sun descends, as the sun is setting, the light of the evening star, that is the planet Venus, the first star that comes out in the sky in the evening time, the first star you can see at night is planet Venus. Actually, it is planet Venus. And this moment, this is the scene here. The ship is setting sail. There is this one planet Venus star up in the sky, very clearly can be seen, rises to act like a beacon. Beacon is like a light, a torch light for the mariners. Mariners are the sailors. After a formal announcement, the one clear call, the ship will sail out of the harbour, across the sandbar, at the harbour's entrance and into the sea. Now, while the ship is about to sail, the captain of the ship, they have a horn, very very loud and powerful horn. He gives that horn, like trains also have it, जो सीटी मारते ना train के, like that only ships also have, but they are very very loud. So the captain gives that one alarm bell or one sound, that is the ship is now setting sail. So here the journey across the bar is symbolic of the crossing from the harbour of life into the dark. Now there's no ship, nothing. It is the poet trying to show us how we are stepping from one part of our life into the other part of our life. The human life into the immortal life. How that transmigration takes place. Okay? So, into the darkness, unknown sea or afterlife, and the clear call is the call of impending death. And the call of the ship, the hoot of the ship, is the call of our death, where we are ending one part of our life and going to the next part of our life. The speaker hopes for a gentle. Now everyone wishes for a peaceful death. Here also the speaker is hoping for a very very peaceful launch of this ship. So the sandbars that separates the harbour from the sea is a demarcation between life and death. That is your stanza 1. Then we reach our second stanza. The speaker wants a tide that is too full for sound and form. Now he is wanting that there should be a high tide, and in the high tide itself the ship can sail out in a better way, because the water rises and with the flow of the waves, the ship has a much easier course to take, and very easily the ship goes out into the sea. So he's wanting that type of a situation here also. Okay. Here the tide is suggestive of the smooth and peaceful transition of the speaker from here. See, tide of the ship sailing over. The speaker in fact is wanting a peaceful death. Everyone wishes for a peaceful death. So when our time comes, whenever it comes, it has to come. We all wish that our death should be a very peaceful death. Not everyone gets it, but here the speaker is wanting such a voyage also, a peaceful voyage. Okay. The speaker then refers to the tide as the one which draws out the boundless deep, turns against home. This is suggestive of the speaker's soul returning to eternity. And when a person dies, the body remains back, the soul immediately leaves the body, and once the soul leaves the body, it goes wherever it has to go, either to heaven or to hell. The body, earthly body, remains, either it is burnt or it is buried, whichever religion you follow. But the speaker somehow referring to that process of death right here. Okay. So enter just as the tide returns to the depth of the ocean, silently with no disturbances. Here the poet has drawn attention to the fact that the journey into death is merely a part of a cycle of birth, and here he is highlighting the fact that this death is a part of our life cycle, and every human being a human or being a living being has to go through this process of life and death. The going out is in the way returning home, the boundless deep, which the speaker likes everyone else. And this going out, setting sail, is when you are setting sail, or after death, when your soul is on its journey to heaven or to hell. He is referring to that process, right? Third stanza. In this stanza, unlike the first stanza, here the speaker hears a clear call. Now in the third stanza, the speaker is getting indication of his death, impending death. Some ideas, some type of hints are coming. Okay. So here's a clear call. Here he hears the sound of the evening bell. These are symbols of end. Evening bell is rung in the evening when the day is coming to an end, and when people are there called to prayer. After twilight again another symbol of end. After twilight there is nothing but dark, and once twilight is finished, it's complete darkness. That is death. Death is complete darkness. Here the evening bell is suggestive of the death knell. Here the evening bell, that is the bell that is rung in churches evening time, is in fact referred to a person's death knell. What is a death knell? A death knell is a bell that is rung in the church to indicate a person has died. When a Christian, when we die, when our bodies are taken to church, the bell is rung, a particular bell is rung. People, on hearing that bell, they know that someone is dead and someone's body has come to church. That is an indication. So those who are near about, after hearing the bell, they come, congregate there, and they partake in the funeral, whatever it is. So death knell is a very significant bell that is rung in church, in our community, in our religion also. Okay. So it's suggested of the death knell, a traditional ringing of the bell to signal that a person is dead. As I said, it's just traditional. Every funeral, this bell is rung, and a Christian will recognize this type of a bell ringing because it is rung in a different way, right? It is a metaphor, the speaker's advance. Now this is all showing that the speaker, whoever is here speaking, is of advanced age. He is waiting for this. He knows his time has come. He knows he has to go through this process. So it's just showing his age, advanced age, and it's showing that he is expecting his impending death. Sensing his end, the speaker hoped for a cheerful. Now he is sensing his end. That is, he knows. You get these intuitions before a person dies. They get intuitions that their end is coming. So they begin to behave in a very strange manner. Same, the speaker is also sensing this. So sensing his end, the speaker hopes for a cheerful, and he is hoping for a peaceful death. Everyone wants a peaceful death, one with no sadness of farewell, and he wants that the death should be in such a way that everyone is sorrowful, no doubt, but everyone should take that death in a positive way. There should be no crying and no mourning basically for this death when he embarks, because he knows he is embarking on a new journey, a journey from life to death, that is a journey from earthly death, from this world to the next world. And there's nothing to be sad about, because you are entering a new world, a new life. So it should be all the more waited for this moment. Okay, then we come to our last stanza. In the final stanza, the speaker points out the significance of his journey, that is his life. What is the meaning of his life to him? He is confident that after crossing the bar, that is after crossing this one process to the other, from life to death, that separates the harbor and the sea, this journey would lead him far beyond the limits of time and place. So once this ship sails out, it has no turning back. Same as with person's life and death. Once a person dies, immediately the soul migrates to the next part of its life, and there's no turning back, and it's a smooth journey from there on. Okay, time and place where he would be able to see the pilot, and knows that once he crosses this bar, even we, when we die, we know a person is sad. The people who are the near and dear ones, they are very sad, but that person knows that he is going to God, he is going to Jesus, and there's nothing to fear about. You're going to God, you should be happy about the fact that you are going there. So he is also with that mind ready for death. Okay, so time and place where he would be able to see the pilot. Here the pilot is God. Okay, face to face, and he is waiting for this thing. Now after that, he is going to face God face to face. When he reaches heaven, he'll be right in front of God, and what a privilege it would be to him to face God there. So that is positive thing that he is thinking about. So, but God, in his guise of a qualified mariner who stirs the ship through the troubled water in and out of the harbor. Here the poet is comparing a sailor or a captain of a ship to God, because the captain of the ship or the sailors who are controlling the ship, they are guiding the ship through thick and thin, through the turmoil, through different problems that it could be facing in the sea. And same is with God also. Our life is a journey of a ship. While we are there, we are facing umpteens of difficulties, umpteens of problems. Okay, so here the speaker hopes to see the pilot after he has crossed the bar, that is after he has reached heaven. Tennyson, that is Lord Tennyson the poet, himself has explained this by saying that the pilot had been aboard, and he's telling us that this pilot, that is God, our entire life, there is never a moment in our life where God is not with us. We only have to believe this. If you believe it, God is right now with us, you are absolutely right, because God is right now with you all also, and it's just a belief. Okay, so he also knows that while this journey of the ship is on, the voyage of the ship is on, like the sailor looking after, guiding the ship, God is also there with us, guiding us through this journey of life. And with God's blessing, with God's hand on us, he is very hopeful that this journey that he is living on earth will be a very smooth journey. Okay, so the pilot had been aboard all along, identifying himself as the divine and unseen who is always guiding us. And every action that we do on this earth, every moment of our life, we are being inspired and we are being guided by God himself. Everything we do is done by God. So this journey of a ship is just highlighted. In fact, there's no journey. Tennyson has just depicted a ship. In fact, he wanted to show a person's life through this poem. He is wanting to show how we cross the bar of life to death, and how our soul migrates from the body part to a spiritual part. Okay, so with that, we will end this summary part of our poem Crossing the Bar. Next class, we will start the explanation part of the poem. So with that, I'll end today's video. Goodbye. God bless.